for me, that was one of Ronnie's best performances. And the reason why is this: we all have great days when everything goes perfectly. We run a perfect race, everything, we're feeling energetic. The day before it's been fantastic. Everything's going to plan. And it's easy to be great when everything's going your way. What we saw on Sunday from Ronnie was, and he's talked about this a lot over the last 10 years since meeting Stephen Peters, about grinding victories out. He talked about wanting to retire because he got everything out of the game, but wanting to also entertain the crowd, wanting to play perfect snooker and preferring to play really well and lose rather than play badly and win. Because he knows, in his own words, if he's playing badly and he wins, it's only a matter of time before the wheels fall off and he's not winning anymore. And I think what we saw from Ronnie on Sunday was he wasn't having an A day. He wasn't having an A plus day. And so he was having maybe a C minus for Ronnie, still playing great snooker, but we saw him behind 5-3, 6-3, and then something kicked in. And maybe it was to do with Ali Carter and the relationship that he's had with him since he was a kid. Or maybe it was just Ronnie, and he said this afterwards, Jimmy White said this afterwards, that we saw a different type of Ronnie today. We saw a disciplined Ronnie. And for me, it was such a great analysis of the game from Jimmy White, that we saw a disciplined Ronnie O'Sullivan. And for me, it was like, okay, he sat back in his chair. I'm not having a perfect day, but I want to win this game. So how am I going to do it? The way you do that, or the way Ronnie describes how he does it, and the way Jimmy describes how he does it, is you grind the opponent down. So you're not having an A plus day, you're having a C minus day, but you keep coming to the table, you keep putting your opponent under pressure, you keep trying to pop balls, you keep trying to grind out frame after frame after frame, shot after shot, and then session after session, and you try to wear your opponent out. And he did that perfectly on Sunday. I don't think there was a break over 80. And Ronnie just managed to put away his opponent very, very convincingly in the end. And Ali Carter said some things afterwards, and there was a bit of drama, etc. They're both quite complimentary to each other at the time, but then afterwards on social media and news and interviews afterwards, it got kind of a bit kind of, and I really enjoy that side of it, because I think snooker has to have characters, and you have to kind of like, you have to have these rivalries. But to watch Ronnie put his opponent away on a C minus day was really fantastic. And I think what we can learn from that as people, whether you're into running, as I am, is you get to races sometimes and you don't feel it. You get a few kilometers into the race or a few miles into the race and you're not feeling it. You're like, it's harder today. It's more difficult. And it's because we're not always firing on all cylinders. We're not always having an A plus day. If that was the case and you waited, you're in business and you wait for everything to be perfect, all the stars to be aligned until you do something, you're never going to get anywhere. And for me, running really brings that out of me, because sometimes you just have to grind through it. You just realize that it's not working today. Everything is not working today. So what can I salvage from this day? And it becomes a rescue mission, especially if right now, okay, you're in the States or you're somewhere in the world and you're going to be traveling to London Marathon in April. Even if you're traveling from Manchester, you've got to take into consideration train. Maybe you're flying from somewhere. You're going to pay £200-300 for your flight. If you're within Europe, you're going to pay maybe £500 to £1,000 if you're coming from the States to run a London Marathon. Same if you're going to New York Marathon, whatever. You're traveling to a race, you've got to pay the hotels, you've got to pay the food, you've got to like put the training plan in place. So it's a 3-month dedicated training plan, months before training for that. And then all of a sudden you get there and it's not an A plus day that you were hoping for. That can happen. Might be the breakfast in the morning, might be the day before, it might be the stress that you've been under through work. But what are you going to do? Are you going to kind of walk off the course and you've got thousands of pounds that you've invested in doing this, or are you going to grind something out? The races that I'm most proud of in my career so far are the races, and Passatore 2022 is a perfect example of this. I wasn't feeling it. And I found myself like absolutely opposite to my race tactics. I found myself in front after 25 kilometers in a 100-kilometer race. I wasn't feeling it. And yeah, I found myself in front, and then it became, it was almost like, because I knew then I had 75 kilometers. If I wanted to win this race, which of course I did, I had 75 kilometers, a good kind of 5-6 hours of running ahead of me where I'm literally getting chased. And instead of hunting, you're being the hunted. And it's not good to be in that position, especially so early in the race. So I had to grind it out, and it was like, okay, How can I make it as difficult as possible for my opponents to win this race? And that's what it became. It became like me trying to muster energy from wherever I possibly could in order to win Passatore. And eventually I did. And when I look at only later, because I had a bicycle next to me most of the time, I was asking people how far away is second place, because I wanted to be able to try and take it easy. And I never got a good answer. I never got an answer, okay, you're 12 minutes off second place. You've got 12 minutes on second place, 15 minutes on second place. It was a big victory in the end. So it was like 18 minutes. But when I look at, in Passatore, it's 40 kilometers flat, 10 kilometers up, 10 kilometers down, 40 kilometers flat-ish. And then you finish in Faenza. And when I look at that last 35 kilometers, which is really the kind of business end of the race, me and second place were very, very, very closely matched on that. I took the KOM for the last 35 kilometers. I think there's a segment. I remember taking the KOM, so the King of the Mountain, the fastest time over that segment. But it was only by less than a couple of minutes. So if you think about that in terms of, it's almost a marathon, 35 kilometers. So that guy in second place was working really, really hard, but he hadn't done what was necessary in the first half of the race and up and down the mountain in order to put himself in a position where he could win the race. He deserved to win in any other year, but I just had the bit between my teeth and I wanted it so much, and I didn't know where anybody else was. So I was running scared, they call it in running terms. And it was because of that I was able to get over the line. And I remember crossing the line, and you can see my face when I've crossed the line. It's literally like, how did that happen? And that's happened a few times in my career. But the reason I'm proud of that is because it wasn't an A+ day. I running those races in 6 hours, 26 hours, 30. It took me 7 hours and 3 minutes to finish that race. And I just so happened to be the fastest on the day, or the person that weathered the storm being the hot conditions on the day, which made everybody a little bit slower. And because I live in hot conditions most of the year, in Granada and in Chiang Mai, where I am right now, I was able to perform better in hot conditions than everybody else. But you know, third place was Giorgio Calzatella, the best 100K runner of all time. And you know, just a side note, I only beat him, and it's a pleasure to share the podium with him, but I only beat him because he's now kind of like past his prime. If he was anywhere near his prime, which is only 3-4 years ago, he would have absolutely devastated me on the day and won the race, which he has done 12, 13 times. So that was, for me, in going back to Ronnie, that was his best victory because he was able to be incredibly disciplined and grind out the win despite not having a perfect day. And that's over sessions, many frames, many shots, and just kind of misses and kind of how can I put my opponent under pressure. Perfect, absolutely perfect from Ronnie. I loved it.